And you did your one show in Toulouse, and
I
you
did
were
one,
shattered.
yeah, exactly. I did one show and then had to have like a lot of sleeping after that. But yeah, he did his like 12 shows in a row and still going, and it's massively admirable.
And we're on. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Last Week Liquid podcast. Today I have the pleasure of sitting down with none other than Spencer, better known as Greycode. Spencer is a drum and bass producer and DJ based out of Bristol, with releases across the likes of Dispatch, Skank & Bass and Metalheadz. You can catch his latest release, the 2-tracker Opal and Suze, out now on all platforms. Spencer, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. I wrote that intro because I thought you were still in Bristol, but you just told me you're actually based in London.
Yeah, I moved in February.
Okay, nice. How's that move been for you?
Great. Yeah, I love London. I always kind of wanted to move. I'd spent a couple months here in the past for work, work experience, things like that, and always had a good time. So it was just it was a nice time to move. I've been in Bristol for like almost 6 years, so I was kind of ready for a bit of change.
Yeah. So is that a move like work related move, or was it just more kind of lifestyle change?
Yeah, it's more a lifestyle change.
Okay.
It was work related in terms of well, I mean, it's not work related because I can work. I work remotely because I work for like an Australian company, so
Okay,
I can kind of work wherever. So
yeah,
it was just a move for I just wanted a bit of change, really.
Yeah.
All my friends live in London, so.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I often I had the question often because I used to live in Hong Kong for 2 years, and when I would say to people there that we moved with my wife from Belgium, where I'm from, and they'd say, "Oh, like, did you find a job or something?" And we were like, "No, not really. Like, we just moved here to like try something new."
Yeah,
and
that's
then
cool.
then we found jobs there, but it was more kind of just changing, change of environment and try something new, see how it goes. If it sucks, you come back.
Yeah, exactly. You're not tied down.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So, and we both work also. My wife works in like digital marketing, and I have kind of a flexible business analyst kind of role. So it's quite easy to move around, find jobs, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, tell me a bit about your job. So you're working for a Australian company. What do you do exactly?
I'm a software developer.
Okay.
I work on some technology to help buses make them more efficient and
Okay, nice.
organize which ways that they should go, like plan their routes and stuff.
Oh, nice. So is that for buses in Australia, or is it?
Yeah, but also like globally now.
Okay.
So working on the expansion.
Okay, nice. Is that related to your studies? Because I read that you studied computer science, I think.
Yeah.
So is that like a direct just connection with your studies?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like it's the course that I did is very like vocational. So after that, you can kind of go into any like
nice
software engineering role. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any dreams of working for like the big, I know, Google, Facebook, those kind of companies, or
No.
not really?
Quite happily avoid that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe if I want the money later on, then it's always an option. But for now, like, there's not really much that I thought. Like, there's nothing that really inspires me. Working for a company like that. I think I'd like to work for a company that I think does some amount of good at least, or at least actively nothing bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny. I was having this chat with a friend yesterday, and we were saying how when I was at university studying business, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, I have like an internship at Google or something," everybody would be like, "Oh wow, that's amazing."
Yeah.
But now, if somebody tells me they're working at Google or Facebook or even Amazon, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's impressive because they're usually quite difficult companies to get jobs in software engineering anyway. But I don't think it's a particularly like inspiring product. Say Facebook, for example.
Yeah, or Meta. We're supposed to call it.
Or Meta, yeah.
Is that something you kind of follow, like what tech companies are doing in general? Or
I do. I do in terms of I like finding I like seeing the big tech companies when they do something ridiculous. Like for example, like the Metaverse, I think is like an awful idea.
Okay.
Not that it's necessarily like not going to be popular or like successful for them, but I don't like the idea of it. And it's interesting to see Facebook going down this route, because it's like they kind of used to. I think it's like kind of their like existential crisis after having like the world's leading social media platform, and now it's just been kind of like that title's taken away from them, and it's the only like boomers who use their platform mostly now.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously still use it. Like there's still a lot of news and stuff I get on there and things like that, but it's not really. I think, yeah, I actually don't know whether it's still actively like a growing user base. Probably not exponentially as it was. So I feel like it's kind of like their midlife crisis of we need to branch out and do something different. What can we monopolize on that no one else has started yet? Which makes sense because they bought like Oculus 10 years ago. No, not 10 years ago. Recently-ish.
Yeah.
So maybe it was like a later play that maybe they had it in mind all along.
Yeah, I'm sure they had it planned because it fits really well with the whole VR stuff that they've been investing in. But no, definitely it's when you hear Facebook, it's had so much bad press. It doesn't have the same, like, I remember when I like discovered Facebook, and I think you're even a bit younger than me, but when I was in school and new people were saying, oh yeah, I'm on Facebook and blah blah, and it was this like exciting new thing.
It was.
And now you hear like just hearing the name Facebook, I think that was a big part also of rebranding, is like has such a bad rap now of like just the name Facebook.
Yeah.
It's crazy, like, and it's only been how long has it been, like maybe not 15 years that it was launched, like it's relatively recent-ish, but it's crazy the change that happened.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's one of those things where like when the name gets used in so many different places, like in so many like, different analogies, and so it's like now it's suddenly caught up and become like in the zeitgeist of words that you would say. It's just I think probably now it's just lost some of its pizzazz because I feel like with a lot of social media you kind of want it like a bit in-groupy. You don't want to be on just like the generic platform. It's kind of like nice to have like a subset community. When it's so like ubiquitous with everyone, then it kind of like it falls apart a bit, which is kind of like interesting considering that like social medias are meant to grow and like encompass everyone, but maybe the appeal to it is not that everyone uses it.
Yeah,
but like just your friends or just people your age or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like everything in life. It's like when you discover an underground band or something, it's like your thing, and you have just a few friends that listen to them, and then they become huge and mainstream. And it's like, fuck this, I'm onto something else.
Yeah, exactly. and even sometimes it's just like you've experienced something so many times that it just becomes like you're used to it, and it's you just go for something else, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, definitely. So just coming back to like the promise we'll talk about music at some point, but I love these topics, but because I spoke a few times about virtual reality with Muzz and Justin Hawks, and they're big into virtual reality and the future of live gigs and all of that, and a lot of stuff I'd never really heard of, and really blew my mind when they told me what was actually possible and what was already happening right now with virtual clubs and lineups and all of that. So what are kind of your thoughts around that whole space ecosystem? Because I guess you're not a fan of Meta in general, but
I mean, I'm not sure why. It's not. It might just be more of like it's more of like an ideological stance against like going against Facebook, just because I just don't like it as an idea. I probably would enjoy it. I'm sure like if they spent thousands and thousands of hours working on it, I'm sure it won't be awful. Well, you'd hope anyway. But I mean, I don't really care for like VR that much. Like I had a VR experience recently. I went to a VR. I can't remember what it's called. It's like a VR games experience hub in Hoxton. What was it called? I can't remember the name of it. But basically, it's like you've got these pods down the side of the room, and each one has got like an Oculus, which is the headset, and HTC Vives, which are like the handsets.
Okay, yeah.
So and then you like separate it out into these pods, and then they're allowed to play like VR games with like the party that you came with. And it was actually it was really fun. I had a really good time. But and like I could, I suppose, see it moving into other things, but I think I'd only use it as like a fallback if I couldn't have the access to the other things. Because like there's a lot of times where like I still think the tech's not that good.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of like cognitive dissonance between like when you're meant to walk and then you start walking with your feet. It's like, oh no, you're meant to move your hands. It's like, okay, well that's like
you're supposed to do like this or
yeah, exactly. Like there's loads of things where it's like, it's still a bit lame in that regard. It's still like you're still treating it with a lens of this is a new technology and it's not matured yet. So you kind of give it a lot of leeway. But if you actually like criticize it, it's like it's all right.
yeah, it's still early.
Yeah, and it can like, and so many people will still get a lot of nausea from it.
Oh really?
Yeah, like I was with I went with my girlfriend and she felt like sick for like halfway through it because and like so many people get like because you can get like vertigo and things through it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether that's due to like it feeling unnatural or whether it's actually or whether your brain feels like it's like too natural. What might cause that, but I just think it's too nascent in that regard to really. And also like these things are so expensive. It's not very like the amount of time it would take for it to like actually penetrate and everyone to have one, or for it to reach like the critical mass where like I don't know. I don't know. I don't really can think of the use cases really.
Yeah, no. I like to think about it, but it's true. It's super expensive at the moment. But if you think back to computers, like in I don't know 10, 15 years, and then everybody's like with the Macs, and then everybody started having one, and that was kind of unimaginable. So I think we always underestimate how fast. You probably know this way better than I do, being in computer science, but underestimate how fast things can move and change. But I don't know. It's interesting to think about, and especially in the context of live music and live gigs, because Muzz had his whole like virtual reality tour with like different dates and different venues, and he made a really like strong case for it being complementary to real life gigs for people who either don't feel safe in live gigs or just not comfortable being in big crowds, or a lot of different reasons where you're like, yeah, I can see why you'd want to stay in your living room, just pop on a headset, you know. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, that's cool. I can totally see it as like an accessibility option. I think that's a really nice way of doing it, or even like providing ways for if you're not able to attend a gig, like a live gig, actually to have like a support there at the gig to be able to stream it or something.
Yeah,
I think that's cool. I'm for people doing it. It's just not something that I'd be interested in personally. Just because I don't know. I like what there is currently. I like it's not just like I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff about going out and stuff that's not just about sitting down and listening to music.
Yeah, the actual experience of bumping into people and talking with people. I don't know how much that really happens in VR. Probably does, but not the same extent, probably.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like and or even just like going somewhere different. I think like having the actual change of scenery from, I'm not sure really how much it would work in VR, but like just leaving your house and going somewhere else, if you can do that, I think can be a worthwhile experience. Just in terms, like even in terms of like from COVID, everyone having to be at home all the time. I think having to do that is not a good. Like I think it was detrimental to. I felt a lot of people felt that it wasn't great for them, but myself included. Like I'm now in a co-working space for work, but beforehand I was just working from home, and I didn't really realize until I moved out. I was like, oh, I'll probably just do like 1 day a week in the office or something. As soon as I come here, I was like, I've done it every day since I had the opportunity to, because it's just like, it's really nice to be able to have that change of context, have home as home, have work as work.
Yeah.
There are so many nice things about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely see like the perks of VR, but it's just not something that I'm interested in for myself. Yeah.
No, for the record, I've never actually tried it, and I feel like I'm trying to convince you here, but I've never I've never actually tried it. It's just I'm just always like curious about like new technologies and new people kind of pushing boundaries in certain directions. It always kind of fascinates me. So I'm just curious where this is all going. But I can definitely see the downsides of, I don't know, getting trapped in virtual worlds and not enjoying just what's already around you and going outside and things like that.
I can imagine it being like, if you could have like a seamless integration with like, because I know a lot of people spend a lot of their time on Discord. If people are already in a space like that and are already communicating, it'd be kind of cool if you could be like, oh, okay, let's do an activity together, or let's enter a different environment. Like if you're already within that environment, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's quite a natural progression to just go from like audio chat with your friends to be able to do something like WeChat or something. That's like one of the VR talking, like, I don't know really what is, like a sandbox game. But if you could like seamlessly kind of go from just talking with your friends to then doing something with them in like a more VR capacity, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be a natural progression of just chatting by messages and then having your avatar and speaking with people directly. I mean, it doesn't really matter what we think. I think it's gonna happen, and then I mean, people will like it and others won't, and so people will use it and others won't, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's very fine.
But let's bring it to music for a second. So your latest release, Opal and Suze on Metalheadz, has been out for a bit over a month, a bit less than a month, something like that. How has the reception been so far on those two tracks? Because I loved them. I think they're brilliant, but how have they been received so far?
Yeah, it's been received well. It's interesting because it was it's my first like single project on Metalheadz. Previous to that, everything has been an EP. And then I had like collaborations on other things as well. But yeah, it was my first single, and it was quite exciting because it was the first project that I'd done through Metalheadz, which was done within like maybe 6 months of starting it. All the other projects have a lot longer burn time, like vinyl pressing, etc. Takes everything over like a year for sure.
Yeah.
So this was quite like a spontaneous release, so which is quite exciting because I kind of wrote Opal in maybe March, April.
Okay, that's quick enough, yeah.
But then I finished it up around maybe like June or July, even later. So it was exciting because that was something that it was just like a new style, a new direction that I was trying out, and it was really cool to be able to like get that out within like a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes like a tune that you might sit on for a while, when it loses the context of the time that it was created in, loses some of its like value or like relevance to you. So it was nice to have that out, and the reception was really good. I was surprised for Opal, like the reception on it. Like it was really positive because it's not really a particularly like dance floor friendly track.
It's a weird one.
It's a weird one, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, I was very pleased and surprised by how people like latched onto it. And then Susse as well is more of a tried and tested tune. I'd played out previous versions for a long time in clubs and shows. So yeah, it was quite a nice pairing, I think. So I think if you go for two more abstract tunes, then people can either it polarizes people, whereas if you kind of balance it out, then everyone's happy.
You need to. It's always about those like two circles I come back to of what you want to do and what people want to hear, and you always have to juggle between the two of like, okay, I really want to do this weird thing, but people probably want to hear a banger, so
yeah. Which
How
is often sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that it's often that the two meetings of that in a single tune that makes like the bangers. It's like you either have like a song which is like perfect mixture of what you want to do and what people want to hear, or like kind of a emergent properties tune which is kind of like a strange one which you can't even describe why it's good. Like the individual sounds you break down, you're like, there's nothing special, but then together it just kind of brings out this emergent property that's like, wow, okay, this is a great track.
Yeah, it's the sweet spot I think everybody's always looking for when they're writing tunes. Is like, I want to do what I want to do, but at the same time, you want people to listen to it. So it's it's always a balancing act. But yeah, so what was the kind of the reason to release it as a single? Because I read that you said that usually EPs you just write one track, two tracks, 3, 4, 5, and then when you reach 4, 5, that's your EP, and if it fits together, then you put it out.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was kind of the reason for stopping at 2 tracks this time and not going for an EP as previously?
It was to do some nice timetabling and releasing for my album coming out. So it was kind of like it's the layup, it's the assist for the album, which will be well, if you can imagine that was dropped recently in preparation for the album, then you could imagine that the album's not too far away.
Oh, nice. Is that public? I haven't seen anything about it. I know you spoke about an album on Metalheadz last year or 2 years back, but
as in it's known that I'm doing an album and that it's coming out soon. Some of the details like are public, but like the main meat of it is coming soon.
Ah, brilliant, good stuff. Really excited for that one. But so coming back to that single, what was the I don't know if you remember writing Opal, like how that came about, because there's a lot of weird sounds, like guitar wise, the whole orchestral section that comes in. Tell me about how it came together.
So it came together. I remember writing it. It was I can't remember the date, but I remember it was on a weekend, and it was at the end of the weekend, I think on a Sunday, and I was really ill throughout a lot of the weekend, and I just felt I was very sick and didn't feel good. So kind of by Sunday, I was quite like delirious and felt quite like floaty, and I thought like, but I felt kind of like had a bit of that like mental clarity of like, okay, I'm gonna write a tune. And then I was just kind of like messing around, and then I found like the guitar sound, which is like the main sound of the track. And then I was like playing it, and then I just made like the main progression from that, and I thought, okay, it's quite cool. How could I? And then I was really in the mood of making a song that has like very minimal drums. So either like very sparse pattern and like small sounds or stranger sounds. Because I thought it'd be cool to make a tune which is like carried not by the drums. Try and shift the focus elsewhere, and still like see whether it kind of like rolls in a similar way. And then I wrote most of it in that session. And then later on, I think when I was finishing it, I like fleshed out the intro a bit more, and like added a few just like tasty extras on top of it. But like all the melodies and stuff I kind of wrote in that first session, which is usually kind of like the way to go if you can, when you kind of got that, you're in that mindset where everything just flows. It's kind of like when you come back to it, you can just trust that. I think, oh no, it was probably good. I wrote it at the time, even if I'm not like super feeling it now. I'll sit with it for a bit, and I'm like, oh yeah, he was right. It is good.
Did you have to sit long on that one to make sure it was good, or were you sure like the next day? I think usually because I work in like one tune at a time, I keep that tune just in my head like all the time. So like whenever I'm working, or just like if I'm doing other things during the day, or sometimes it might just come into my head, and then I'll think about like, okay, what else can I add to it? What else should I change? So I kind of like, the song sits with me for a nice like period of time. It's usually, how long does it take me? Usually like, I usually produce a tune about one a month. Okay. So, and it just kind of sits with me. It kind of depends like how much time I have to make music.
but yeah, it just sits with me, and then like either after a couple of sessions, it's like done to the point where it would just be fine details from then on. Well, yeah, basically, I always write the tune until it's at that point.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it ends up with my songs being a lot more crowded than they should be, as in like having a lot more elements in that probably they need to. Like I think the best songs are like a refined use of a few elements as opposed to lots of elements, because it's kind of like it's quite a cheap, easy way to be like, oh look, I'm doing something interesting.
Yeah,
but
look at that, all this stuff happening.
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Be distracted.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I think the best songs are often, well, yes, again, it's that balance of simplicity, versus not having enough going on.
Yeah. I think it's always tricky because when you're writing the tune, you know exactly all the elements that you've put in into the arrangement. So sometimes it can feel like there's a lot, but for somebody hearing it the first time, it might not seem the same way because they all fit together so well. So it's hard to really make out, like, is it too much or is it okay?
It's true. I think in terms of like, sound choice of sounds, you can restrict it, and it's like drum and bass is often so like repetitive anyway. In terms of like, it's a loop based genre. Like you have some freedom to kind of break the style, but like you also have to remember that it's drum bass tune. Well, I try to remember that it is drum bass tune, so it does give you parameters to work around, which also allows you to be creative, I suppose.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about the orchestral section that comes in a bit after the drop, because that really caught me like off guard, like most people, I guess. And I saw that video of Goldie on Instagram where he's listening to it, and when the strings come in, he's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing that video? Like, how did you feel when you saw him reacted?
Oh yeah, that was great. I think it was like it was probably a morning for me, because I think he recorded it in his afternoon in Thailand, and that's often in the middle of the night. So that was great, and it was like it was exactly the reaction I wanted. That was that's one of the my favorite parts of music is writing things like that, when you've got like an established base of a track, like melodically and like harmonically, and then after that you feel like, now I've got this and I'm safe. You can just go to town with like you can, when you're hearing like the whole rest of the song, you can kind of be like, oh no, this is what the direction I'm going to go for. This is like the melody I'm going to pick, and it all just like fits together really nicely.
Yeah, it's all about, I feel it's about subverting expectations. I feel like the worst thing that can happen is if I put on a drum and bass tune and then I'm working on something and then I don't realize it's playing anymore. Yeah. And usually the best sign is if I put something on and then something happens in the track and I kind of like stand up like, like, what was this?
Absolutely. That's why, like, I think it's interesting that you talk about that, because Spotify kind of works in a like the opposite way to that. Like Spotify make money from having lots of streams, and having you listening to the platform. Well, maybe not as much for paid listeners, but basically they want you to, or say for example YouTube, they want you to just keep watching and keep things on. Say for example with mixes, so they want it to not really grab your attention. They want it, so it's not bad enough for you to turn it off, but not like necessarily good enough that you will then interrupt what you're doing and then listen to that and then maybe turn it off. They just kind of want it to like sneakily sit by.
Yeah, nice and passive.
Which is like kind of a weird way of that's why I was kind of like against listening to music on Spotify for so long, because I was always against that kind of like it picking songs for you and kind of turning music into a passive activity instead of like an active one.
Yeah.
So I always like really liked having, like, I was always a massive iTunes library person. I had like a huge library, and I was always very like keen on making my own playlists and always creating cues of like no, and this will be a perfect cue. So I was always quite against Spotify. Like, I do really like it now, and it has become my main source of music listening. But that was only because Google Play Music shut down, and I used to have like all my music ported from there from iTunes onto there. But then after that break, I was like, oh no, suddenly I've got zero music. All my libraries are gone because I can't listen to them anymore. So, then I had to rebuild on Spotify.
So I guess you won't be applying for a job at Spotify either.
I mean, it's okay. It's nothing that like, I don't think it's like that exciting, Spotify. So,
I'd love to.
Spotify, no, sorry.
No, I'm just messing. I know I was looking for a job earlier this year, and I applied for a few ones at Spotify, but they're a bit like Amazon and Google. You have to be like the top 1% of whatever you do to actually stand a chance. So sadly didn't hear back from them.
You're too good for them anyway.
Yeah, let's say that. But so coming back to I was mentioning being pulled from the music and because of those strings. So how did you kind of get the idea, I guess, for the strings, but how did you arrange them, I guess, more? Is it like sample based libraries? How did that go about?
Yeah, it's all in MIDI, so I would just like played it out. And I think the idea for the melody came from a Jaipal song. He's got I think it's called Genevieve by Jaipal. It's either that or I can't remember. It's another track from that album. But it just has like this like upward melody that comes in during like one of the songs. I just think like it was something that really like captured me at the time. Just like wow, that's really cool. I thought, and it kind of just like I was listening to it a lot at the time, and it kind of just like naturally specified into when I was doing my own song, thinking like, oh yeah, I'll just do it. I'll do a similar way. And yeah, it's all strings. I think strings and maybe a guitar. I think it's like a bowed cello, bowed electric cello, and then some other sounds underneath. I think I just picked the electric cello because it was just like kind of I don't know really why I chose it. It just kind of felt like it's easy to have like quite a dynamic sound with like if you're using like original recording sounds, like for example a guitar or like more orchestral stuff, it's easy to get like the kind of dynamics that in the sound that I think it's quite difficult to get in a lot of electronic sounds.
Okay.
And I think that it's important to have like the dynamic sounds are more emotive. You can kind of hear more like the emotion played, or you can kind of imagine it being played, which I think gives you a better connection to the song because you can kind of like hear it more as a human-made thing as opposed to something that's. I think that's why like a lot of very rigid songs aren't very. I don't think people like them very much when it sounds too technical or like too computerized. I think that's also why like one of the barriers to electronic music is that people can't hear what went into it being made, and it sounds like computer sounds as opposed to someone's composition. So yeah, I picked the strings for mainly just because it's a cool sound, nice and dynamic. It kind of flows in a nice way, which I think is quite difficult to get. Like that nice like legato is like sometimes sounds a bit too robotic on a lot of other instruments. Yeah. So yeah, and it's like it's quite a normal enough sound that you can, because it's got like loads of harmonic content. I feel like when you filter out either some sections of it, you still got like enough harmonic content to play with. So like you can place it in the mix like kind of wherever you want, because it's always quite rich wherever you have it.
Like when I heard it, I was like, he probably went into a studio with a proper like orchestra playing it or something. Like it sounds so real, and so because you can
Oh,
hear
that's good to hear.
yeah, you can hear when something is played by. And I think you played cello when you were younger, so I'm guessing like there's some knowledge that passed on, but you can hear when somebody has no idea of how strings work, but actually put strings in a track and I'm basically talking about myself here, but you're basically like playing just one chord and then another.
Yeah.
And it just feels so like artificial. But yeah, I don't know, how much did you draw on your own experience of playing cello, of learning cello?
Yeah, well, I think because I'd done it for long enough, I think it kind of like helped me then just like think of when I'm listening to music, it's kind of like how I translated it. So like for melodies or whatever, you kind of think, I think you've always got that context in the back of your mind of this is how you translate ideas into music. So it kind of goes through that filter, I suppose. So whenever I'm doing strings, I feel like it's quite like a natural extension of like my brain. I don't need to like think about like, so for example, if I'm playing piano, I don't really know how to play piano. So I've got like, there's like a greater delay between me having ideas in my head and me being able to get them down.
Yeah.
Whereas if I got an idea that requires a string, then I'm like, oh, I know exactly how I can place it and play it. So I think like it kind of just works for me because it's like, it's an instrument that I'm used to, that I just like know quite well. So it just like sits better.
Yeah.
I find it a lot easier to do like string-based things, which is probably why you hear a lot of strings in my things.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering also if is it because a lot of it sounds always cinematic, and tracks like what was it on your first Metalheadz EP, King's Rock?
King's Rock, yeah,
King's Rock, which really feels like cinematic, like it belongs in a movie. I was wondering how much like do movie soundtracks influence you in your productions, or is it just your love of strings and cello in general?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really listen to soundtracks that much at all. I think that probably me and the soundtrack composers draw the same way from like orchestral music. So like we both like stem from that in terms of like thinking about how we'll arrange tracks in like that kind of like grand way. I mean, like at school I played in like part of orchestras and stuff like that, and it was always like I think that was really helpful because like from a quite young age you get to see like the arrangement of firstly like long pieces of music with lots of different instruments, and how they kind of like sit together like tonally, but then also like arrangement wise, and seeing like how like different things like counter each other, having your different like subsections of your string sections or whatever, some playing like the main line and then like something coming in with a harmony. So I think that was probably really useful. Like it was not something that I like enjoyed at the time, or thought like this is beneficial. Yeah. So either I'm looking back on it and then applying thinking, oh, it was worthwhile, so that I don't feel like I wasted it, or it was actually just beneficial, which it probably was.
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the same experience kind of learning piano when I was younger, and I did 5 or 6 years of piano lessons, and and I used to not really enjoy it for the most part, and there was a bit of like contemporary music, like I would learn Harry Potter themes and things like that, but then I had to do my Debussy and more classical stuff, and didn't enjoy it that much. But now when I look back on it, like it enabled me so much in terms of learning the guitar and just writing like chord progressions when I'm writing music, or so many different things that you don't really appreciate when you're 10 or 12.
Yeah. What kind of guitar stuff do you play?
So I used to when I actually picked up the guitar, it was just to play Blink songs, Blink 182. That was like, that's the only thing I wanted to do, and I learned pretty much every song that I could, like just It's basically quite straightforward when you're learning guitar. Like it's 3 chords, power chords, and you're off. So that was like my first entry, and then more heavy metal because that was really the music I was into. So yeah, more heavy stuff, and used to play in a band, but not anymore. So now it's just myself, just kind of riffing some
Nice.
heavy
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. You also
That's
play a bit
cool.
of guitar, I think.
Yeah. I play guitar probably more so than I did cello. I did it for quite a long time. And then like I stopped for probably like 6-7 years or something. And then like 2 years ago I picked it up again. And I was just like I started playing just like I was listening to a lot more guitar music. And I started playing some more things. It was like I'd also kind of like when I was younger, I really liked like metal and stuff like that. And then I kind of like fell out of touch with it, I suppose, for like quite a long time. And then kind of like 2019, end of that, maybe 2020, I got back into it. And then that kind of like after listening to that, it kind of made me like think back to playing guitar, and it kind of like made me pick that up again.
Yeah.
So then I started like trying to play. I was then like whenever I played guitar, it was always just like, oh, I want to learn how to play that. And I was always just like picking songs and trying to play them. I was never like trying to use it as like an instrument to make music or anything. I always just wanted to be able to like recreate the songs I really liked.
Yeah, just play the solos and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, nothing.
I was gonna say it's funny how also with drum and bass and metal, I kind of went through cycles in my life of also like long periods of several years not really listening to drum and bass and just being full on heavy metal, and then dropping a bit of heavy metal. And it's only like last year, a bit with the pandemic, and then last year that I started getting a lot more back into it as well.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a good genre if like because there's not much music which really like expresses sad feelings or the kind of like anxiety or like that kind of I like the sort of like the tense feeling you get from a lot of metal. And I think it's really useful for like your own emotional outlet is to like listen to that kind of music because it allows you to kind of like feel in touch with those emotions in like a quite like a natural, healthy way.
Yeah.
So I never really listened to like particularly like I never listened to like any screaming stuff until like recently when I was shown like Death Heaven, and then like they've become one of my like favorite bands. Well, like recently anyway.
Yeah.
I was just thought it's so different to like, anything that I've ever listened to, and it's like you can really hear like the kind of like the pain and the struggle that they had like writing it at the time. It's like it's kind of nice. It's quite comforting, I think.
Yeah, for me it was really, I used to go to a ton of heavy metal shows, and that was really a hard aspect of the pandemic, of not being able to go to those shows and I'm sure it's the same thing for a lot of like drum and bass heads, and not being able to go to those shows and express all that emotion and anxiety, whatever you have in you. And it's for me, it's definitely a genre of music where just conveys so much more emotion than anything else I've really listened to or discovered. So what kind of bands do you listen to at the moment? Death Heaven, I've never really listened to them, but
they kind of do it's kind of they're quite an interesting band because they're like their sound is like often described as like a mixture of like shoegaze and like deathcore, I don't know, death metal. So it's like quite thrashy, but then also has the like thrashy and screaming, but then also has kind of the like indie style shoegaze like tones to it.
That sounds really weird.
It's weird, but it's like I think it's really cool because I think like a lot of the things that like put me off metal was like I think like bands like Slayer and stuff up there. Like I used to growing up I used to really like Metallica. Like, I loved Metallica. I don't like listen to it as much anymore just because I think like either I've like overdone it or I just like don't relate to it in the same way, I guess. But yeah, like other metal I really like. This is like a completely different side of metal. Like Animals as Leaders, they do
Yeah,
like
the prog side. Yeah,
prog, yeah.
yeah,
So it's kind of more into like the prog stuff. Yeah, like I can't really like I don't really like listen to many other like
Periphery or stuff like that.
yeah, I don't particularly like Periphery. I quite like them,
Okay.
but I like didn't really get into them really.
Yeah. Sometimes it's too complicated.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's like I think their stuff. It sounds like it sounds a bit too programmed at some points.
Yeah.
And like, but like when it's like actual electronic music and it's programmed, it's fine. But when it's like more live based music and it's programmed, then it's like I don't really find like the sound palette particularly interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't find like, and then so like I'm kind of either looking for like hearing like their cool technical ability or just like really great songwriting, and then I feel like none of it's like there if it's that programmed and it's in the same way. It's like it doesn't really.
Yeah.
I don't really get what I was like kind of looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. So I never really fully got into prog metal because sometimes it just felt like, okay, we've got 25 cool riffs. We're gonna all pack them into one song, and it's like,
exactly.
what am I listening to here?
Yeah, and it's like there's never anything that's like that really hits me like first time with it. But once like you've listened, but I've found with like so Animals Leads is probably like my band I've listened to the most last year and this year of like or of like any music, like the artists that I've listened to the most. And like I actually found like so there's loads of depth to their songs. Whenever I listen to like a new one that I haven't really heard, I'm not really that into it. But then I get so much more into it, like the more I listen to, and then you kind of reach that like peak where you can kind of like hear what they were hearing when they were writing it, like when you know how all the rhythms work and everything like lines up, and you kind of get that eureka of yes, I'm there with it.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you put the time into like just give it a couple listens through, then after a while you're like these like weird rhythms like then become like quite natural, and then you can kind of hear how they play off it, and that's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, the like barrier to entry is a lot higher for those types of bands. You have to do a bit of like homework almost to get into them.
Yeah, definitely. Like I had to, or like I felt watching them, people do like playing it live was helped quite a lot, because like then you can really like appreciate like in Animals as Leaders, they're like all amazing musicians, and when you can kind of like see them doing it, it's like okay, this is like quite a spectacle.
Yeah.
It's composed of 2 guitarists and a drummer, and the 2 guitarists both play 8-string guitars.
Yeah. The really weird shaped one, like the white one, like like I've seen pictures of it. It's like, is that still a guitar?
Yeah. So Tosin Abasi, he makes the he like has his own guitar brand and has like loads of crazy shaped stuff. But he's like probably definitely my favorite guitarist. He's amazing. And then the guy who plays with Javier is he's like came from like a classical background, but then has loads of like amazing like classical 8-string songs. And then it's interesting to hear how like they make music together, because you can hear like each other's influences and like their styles of playing like affect each other. And like Tosin does loads of stuff inspired by like the Wooten brothers, like their slap techniques and stuff like that. And it's like it's cool to hear like these bands have it's like when you know people's inspirations, like, it's always quite nice when you can like relate to them as people and like see how they draw on stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of the going back to like a lot of the other like metal bands that I don't really like, I think it's like they feel a bit too serious, which I'm not really like a fan of. They feel like not very self-aware, and you get like there's a lot of bands like those kind of like heavy metal bands that are all quite like linked with like white supremacy and things like that. It's just like I definitely don't want to be supporting that in any way. So it's like it's quite a difficult scene to tread. I think you have to be like watch out for the bands that you think are going to be good.
Yeah, there's often a lot of like cinematics and theatrical stuff when it comes to metal, and it's all very, especially the darker side of metal, is all very serious and all that. And sometimes you just want like a bit like in drum and bass, you just want a banger, like a good heavy riff, and it doesn't have to be the. If you want the unserious aspect, I don't know if you've ever heard of Steel Panther, but they're like the opposite, but they're not. I don't know if it's metal; it's more heavy rock. But they're like almost a joke band. I think they started as a kind of a parody of like the hair metal scene of like Bon Jovi and all that era. So like they're normal dudes, but if you look at a picture of them, they're like long hair and like fishnets and all that style. But they have so their like lyrics are completely like not safe for work. Like it's really like very bad. But they have amazing riffs. So if you just want to have like fun, like party metal almost, like they're a really good band.
Okay, I'll check them out.
Yeah, definitely. Like don't put them on speakers at WeWork.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, cool. I always love chatting about metal. Sometimes I think I should start another podcast just focused on metal, because that's my other like big love in music. But so yeah,
send me some more recommendations, because it's not a scene that I know very well.
Yeah, I've got plenty of bands, and if you're more into the like modern stuff, I'll send you a few. Like Parkway Drive would be like my all-time favorite if you've ever listened to those guys. They're they're amazing. They're actually an Australian band, but they're huge in the current like metalcore scene. I'll send you a few. Cool. There's a lot to discover.
Yeah.
But so just talking about like cello and guitar and all that. So going back to your like earlier years, I get how did you kind of get started in electronic music, starting from a more classical background? How did that bridge happen?
So I didn't like electronic music for a long time. Sorry, I might get some water soon. I didn't like electronic. Sorry. Okay. I didn't like electronic music for a very long time. Or the music that I did like that was actually electronic music, I didn't really like think of as electronic music. So like, the first album that I bought was Demon Days by Gorillaz, which is electronic music. Yeah. But I wouldn't have like classed it as electronic music because it had like vocals or some live elements that I didn't think. It just like it didn't break like that boundary in my brain. Think of it as electronic music. And then so like I already listened to a lot of electronic music, just kind of like without realizing it. But then I kind of got into like dance music, or like more like club focused music, through my younger brother. So he was like, I don't know how he got into like electronic music, but he was always listening to, like when he was 13 and 12, he had like all of like the Hospitality drum bass CDs, and like he had like loads of the UKF CDs, like the Dubstep All Stars ones. He had like stuff from like basically like the whole range. He had like some like IB3 type ones as well. He basically just had like so much dance music. But I kind of like I didn't get it at the time. I like would just like make fun of him for listening to like computer noises and things like that.
Yeah.
And like it was always just like it's just like I don't know. I just like taking the piss out of it. Really, I don't think it was for any real reason. Just something today, I guess. But I like I was never into it. And then like I started listening to I heard it was when like Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites came out. I remember hearing like the title track and just being like, this is ridiculous. But then because it was like so ridiculous that I started actually liking it.
Yeah, same, man. Same. And it's actually also my younger brother who made me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like a year and a half younger than me.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to a bit of electronic music, but this is really stupid, but I remember the place he showed me, like at our parents' place. Yeah. I remember the computer in the living room and him showing me like
I love that.
Scary Monsters and Nice Pride. And my first reaction was like, this is stupid. Like, this is not music. I refuse. But then it kind of gets stuck and it sticks with you.
It really like, it hits something so different because I'd never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was listening to like it was a. I remember like, kind of like the moment I kind of got into it. Like there was a Skrillex and 12th Planet mix on for Ultra Music Festival 2012. And then like I remember just like I was like, okay, so this Skrillex music is like ridiculous. Let's see what it's like live. So I went on the live video and then found like this mix, and then someone like posted in like a timestamp. I was just like it was some like drum bass version of one of the classic Skrillex songs. I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. I kind of get into it from that.
Yeah, you kind of drop any pretense and just embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think it was like, yeah, when you get to see other people like enjoying something as well, that's kind of like ties everything together. And you're like, oh wow, okay, this is cool. So then yeah, like kind of after that, I remember probably like forward a month or two, we were like thinking like, okay, how do you make this music? Because I think it was like coming from the start point of like, it should be pretty easy, right? It's just like computer sounds and things like that. So
press buttons.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember we were on. Well, like my brother had already started making electronic music at that point. And I remember being in his room and we were looking up like how to make like the kind of like more. We were like, okay, so you can make like basic sounds. How did you make like the crazy like FM basses from Skrillex and things like that? And then we went on like Loop Masters and found like the Sennheiser like dubstep pack. We were like playing the demos and we're like, oh my god, this is crazy. And then like I remember like racing downstairs to try and like download it before he did. And then
whoever used the samples first.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had some like old like massive. It was like all about massive presets and stuff like. And we had one called like Tunecraft Growl Arsenal that we bought. Things like that. And it was just like it was a very exciting time. And we both were kind of like making dubstep.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And then yeah, he ended up having some like he got hit up by like Tice for Division for like a remix when he was like 13, I think.
Oh wow.
Or maybe 15. It was like a year or two into his production. So he was just making something that was so like different that yeah, he was way ahead of his time. I remember he was making like he made like a halftime track which like Ivy Lab played at their like 2020 like their opening 2020 night and stuff.
Oh wow.
Like their first night of doing that. So he was doing a lot of like cool stuff from very early on.
Is he still making music now?
Yeah, he's still making music. He makes like a lot of different types of art now as well, not just music.
Oh, nice.
But you can find his music. So his like main alias that he doesn't really use anymore is Think Twice. And then if you like his more current stuff, I think he posts under Other Men.
Other Men. Okay.
Yeah. So he does like a lot of stuff. I'm not sure whether it's all up to date on Spotify, but he's got a lot of stuff on Bandcamp. He makes a lot of. I don't really know how to describe his music, which is like always a good thing because he's like he really does his own thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's very different and special.
If you can't associate it to any other artist, that's usually a good sign. It's like it's his own stuff.
Yeah, it really is. He's really got his own sound. So yeah.
How was it to? Because I know you two collaborated on one of the tracks on the Metalheadz EP. How did that collab come about? Was it an easy process to collab with your brother? Or?
Yeah, it was. It was an in-person collab. We started it in. He came to visit me when I was at uni in Bristol, and then we just kind of like played around. We we both had like an idea, or it was like on a song that I just started, so it was quite an early idea, and he basically played some melodies on it over the top and stuff, and then we were just kind of like working it out together. And then later on, when I'd like fleshed out of it, he basically made all of the later on section, which I really love, where like there's like a melody that comes in, probably like 32 bars in, like played with the lead, and it just sounds like excellent. It's just like it's a really like just like brings the whole track together, and then just made some more other bits as well. I kind of just like put them in the project and arranged them. So that was a super easy collab, yeah. And we'd always done some stuff like in the past. We've made quite a lot of tracks together, and it was always a really fun time. Like when we both like lived at home in the same house together and like made tracks together. It was always like it was just always like a really great like evening or something. We just spend a lot of time just working on something together.
Yeah.
We always worked on like his computer. He was always like in control, in charge.
He was the one in charge, the younger brother.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Would he be more like? Would you consider him more like, I don't know, technically advanced or knowledgeable?
Definitely.
About? Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely like much better producer. So it was like made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool that you guys can share that. Like I have two younger brothers and they both love music, but none of them really like got into music as much as I did. Although the youngest, he picked up the guitar again. Like he learned when he was a kid, and like now he's 25 or whatever, and he picked it up again now, and he's really, really into it. Like more, but like acoustic, like finger picking, like really complex patterns, like stuff I wouldn't have a clue. What's that?
Like flamenco and things like that.
More like covers from like popular pop songs or whatever. Stuff like he played this cover of Linkin Park, and it's this kind of finger picking with the melody and the singing at the same time, and
that's
that kind of stuff.
Cool, yeah.
It's just really cool to see him like really get into it again, because he never played any instrument for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and now he's back into this.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to be able to like share with your brothers, I feel.
I really agree.
Yeah. So at what point from making like crazy sounds and dubstep tracks and that kind of stuff, what point did it kind of shift towards drum and bass, and what point did you think like, okay, I'm gonna actually put some time to this and take it a bit more seriously?
Well, initially I think I changed because I just couldn't make the sounds that I wanted to, and I couldn't really like create that tear out dubstep sound that I really wanted to do. And then like after that I was kind of like, well, just play to your strengths. If you're not good at making these things, try and make things that are more like minimal. Because it requires like similar technicality but in a very different way. So then that like naturally led me to make stuff that was more, and also stuff that was kind of more like socially acceptable with like my friends and
socially acceptable. I like that.
Yeah. Like things that like, it was like, the influence of like my friends and stuff at the time is like, trying to make something that you could like show to people and not be like really embarrassed by.
I love your depiction of tear out dubstep as like music you don't really show to your friends.
I did, no way. Not even now I wouldn't. I still listen to loads of tear out dubstep, but it's not like I just have very few friends that like enjoy it, so it's not something that I would like show around really.
Yeah.
No means to hate on tear out dubstep though. But
no. Actually, like a quick side note, I don't know if you saw this like homemade documentary about dubstep. It's called All My Homies Hate Skrillex.
No, I heard about it. I haven't seen it.
You should watch it. It's brilliant. It's just this dude in his bedroom. He does these documentaries like 1 hour long, and he did one on dubstep about like the origins of dubstep when it was really like dark and minimal and grimy and like Burial and those kind of guys, and then how it kind of got hijacked by Skrillex and then that whole movement. And now when you hear dubstep, most people think about Skrillex and kind of his journey going through it and all of that. Really, really interesting. I didn't know anything really about it before I watched it, so I'll send it through for you. You should definitely watch it.
I mean, it's crazy to think that like how even like Skrillex would have even kind of like heard about it, because I felt like it was like it's a UK origin thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like kind of, I don't know really how like that sound like really went across, because I'd never thought dubstep was very popular in America. So I can't really imagine how like Skrillex would have got involved in it.
Yeah, it just got I don't know. Yeah, he put his own spin on it, and it got
Yeah,
huge, and then that became synonymous with dubstep. But
yeah.
if you listen to earlier dubstep stuff, it's nothing to do with like the tear out dubstep of
I think
today.
you can hear similar things in like like Koki,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like
yeah,
tunes like any of his like tunes, like they've got so many like similarity. Like you could so easily see like genre spinning off of that, or like rhythm coming out of like
yeah,
just being massively influenced by his sound and things like that.
yeah,
But yeah, it's cool.
yeah. So yeah, at what point did you think like like taking it more seriously and like gigging and getting on Metalheadz, like that doesn't just happen?
No.
Making one tune a year, like you have to. So how
Yeah.
did that happen?
Well, I always liked I kind of like started like I always liked playing music at parties and things, like growing up, and it was kind of a bit of a progression from that. I remember like one of my friends had a party that I like did an actual like DJ set at with like a Serato controller, and it was like I just thought it was really fun. So I can't remember when I started playing gigs. 2016, 2017, I think. So when I went to uni, I thought, I kind of want to like play more. So I joined the like DJ society, and then like got some opportunities to like play out. And through that, and I started playing like the first gig I played was for a promoter that's like very big now called Dazed. They used to do like Tuesday nights at Blue Mountain Club in Bristol, which sadly shut down recently. But they used to just do like these Tuesday night events that was like £1 on the door before 11 or something.
Nice.
And it was like a very classic like student night. But they'd always get like a good artist down, and then loads of support in. And then like I had the chance to be support acts on some of the nights, and it was like I just really enjoyed it, and it was just kind of like a natural progression of being like, how do I do this more? And then ended up getting like so doing more local shows, and then at the same time I was producing. I just kept producing because I enjoyed it, and it was like always like a nice goal to hear like your songs in the clubs. Like when I remember when having friends who were like further ahead in their careers than me, like Emanu John, when he was Signal, I remember him playing at Fabric, and he played one of my songs, and it was like that was such an amazing moment. And it was kind of just like kept having that forward motion of people around you doing well, inspiring you, and just having that like community there. I just think, and like knowing that you can do it. Like when you can see people around you do things, and you think, oh, I can do it too, and it kind of leads you to get there. So it was kind of just like having that good support network of friends, but then also being involved in like the club scene in like my local area and stuff. Like having that kind of online world and then the real world kind of helped to, well, because I was just spending like a lot of time doing both, then it's kind of like it was only natural that it would kind of just like go somewhere at least.
Is it ever something you thought about pursuing really like full time?
Yeah, I did. Kind of like towards the end of my like time at uni, I was thinking, oh yeah, I could do it full time. But then whenever I thought about times where I just didn't want the pressure basically. Like I was happy to like if I thought throughout my entire time at uni, entire time at school and stuff, I always found enough time to make music. And I was like happy with where I was at the time. I kind of just thought, as in like I was happy with like the progress I'd made and like what I'd been doing. I thought I can just kind of continue doing that. I thought that like sometimes having too much time on something can be a bad thing. I didn't want pressure on my creativity, because sometimes you just go through periods where you don't write anything or don't even want to make music, and then I felt like I'd get the same enjoyment, like I'd still have the same amount of time that I have currently enjoying making music as I would if I did it full time. But I would also have a hell of a lot of time where I'm not enjoying making music.
Yeah.
Making it just like that filler, and it's just I have to.
Yeah.
So it's like I would imagine it becoming a bit more job like, but I just like if I'm gonna be like chances are I'm not gonna enjoy doing it every day. And if I'm not gonna enjoy doing it every day, I might do something else that I don't enjoy doing every day that's a bit more secure.
Yeah. That's a good calculation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I didn't, and I kind of didn't want to have to play so many shows all the time as well, because it's like I didn't want to have to be. I feel it's quite like a solitary thing. Like whenever I've played like long stretches of shows and then haven't been able to see my friends on the weekends and have really like any time for myself, it kind of felt like I felt a bit lost. I kind of felt like I need to have some more time for myself.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd have been able, like, I don't think I'd be able to do it, like every weekend. Like, massive respect to the DJs that do, because it's like people don't understand like the amount of like effort and
it's
like
insane.
and how draining it is as well.
Even purely on a like sleep schedule basis.
Yeah, awful.
Of like going to bed at 5 or 6 in the morning, 2-3 nights a week, and then shifting back to a normal schedule, trying to make music, then doing it all over again, week in, week out. It's insane. Honestly, it's
I remember coming back from a gig in it was in France, in Toulouse. I remember coming back on the plane with Voltage, and I was talking to him about, he was like basically like, this was I think a gig from a stint of 12 nights he had in a row of gigs.
Jesus Christ.
it was incredible that he was like, and he was just like took it on.
And you did your one show in Toulouse, and
I did exactly. I did my one show and then had to have like a lot of sleeping after that. But yeah, he did his like 12 shows in a row and still going, and it's massively admirable, because it's not an easy job, and I think you get a lot of, and no one understands that it's not an easy job either. Everyone says like, oh, but you're doing what you love and things like that, but it's like that's a very large underestimation of what it's actually like.
Yeah, there's so many sacrifices that go into it, and same for like touring bands and all of that. When I would watch like documentaries of my favorite bands, and they're in a tiny van for like 2 months, and with 3 t-shirts and no shower, it's like, I don't actually want to do this.
It's like probably like doing that is probably like fun to do once.
Exactly.
I remember watching a video of like Def Heaven were talking about one of their tours, and like they were like, recently we've like, because they said like they wrote a lot of their like first albums when they were like really sad, but now they're like happier. They're like, when they go on tour, they like go for like, some of them don't drink, some of them go for like swims in the morning, or go to the gym in the morning and like do these things. It's like, touring doesn't have to be like, you don't have to make it so hard on yourself. Yeah.
I guess it's different for bands, because like schedule are a lot more reasonable.
Yeah.
When you're a DJ and you get the the 5 a.m. slot or something, there's not much you can do about it, and you have to.
And also, like as a DJ, you often big DJs play multiple shows in one night. So you might play like 3 shows in one night, and then you have to play one, get driven to the next one.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
No. Being a software engineer is probably a safer bet for your mental and physical health.
I think.
No. Brilliant. I'm gonna bring this slowly to a close. It's been brilliant chatting with you, man. Really enjoyed this chat.
Yeah, me too.
Getting to meet you. I'll definitely send you a few metal bands and that documentary I told you about. But before we shut off, anything else you want to mention? Future projects, shows you'll be playing at, any of that good stuff?
Well, only thing is to say, keep an eye out for the album, because the announcement is coming very soon.
Nice.
And if it's announced by the time that this comes out, take the time to read it, and please listen, because it's been a massive project which I haven't put this much effort into any other project before. So it's it's a big deal for me. And I think it reflects it in the music as well. So yeah, take a listen if you get the chance.
Brilliant. All right. Well, all the best with the album launch. Hope it goes well. And yeah, maybe we can do another one of these chats once the album is out and kind of review it together. But
yeah, definitely.
In the meantime, all the best, man. Cheers.
Yeah, you too, man.
Cheers.
See ya.